What's the weirdest thing about modern life that people just accept as normal? The complete lack of privacy. People post their whole lives on social media. Also, with this phone in my pocket, I am expected to be reachable at any given time. I'd love to go back to when I could leave the house without everyone being able to contact me. When I lived with my parents a few years ago, they would always track my location through my phone. I had very strict parents. I always wished I could go somewhere in privacy. Being in obscene amounts of debt. As recently as the 80s. Being in $5,000 of debt meant you likely had a gambling problem or were a drug addict or something. It freaks me out how many people encourage the behavior as well. I was lamenting to a former friend about the used car market, because it was hard to find a car in my cash-only price range. Dude just laughed and said just lease one or put it on a credit card. He's close to probably $30,000 in debt, and not because he has school loans. Every time we drive on a highway without a median at 60 plus mph, we're just 8 feet away from death every time we pass another car in the opposite direction. There aren't many things we choose to get that close to death within a regular basis. Imagine walking out on a shooting range and letting people fire at a target 8 feet to your left or right. Phew at that. But driving is really quite similar. We trust the other drivers not to drive into us, just like we'd have to trust the shooters with guns to hit the targets instead of us. Driving, especially motorcycles, is one of those things that I think if it was invented out of the blue today, everyone would be like, "No way. Are you crazy? That's way too dangerous." Quote, "Yeah, and I just rode my motorcycle for 3 hours today just for fun." That you could get on an airplane in New York City, take a Xanax, go to sleep, and when you wake up, you're most of the way to Paris already. Are suspiciously specific. 13 hours till you land while you're out like a light. IU, like a light eye. Overwhelming irrelevant choice. Take toothpaste for example. Need a tube of toothpaste from the grocery store? No problem. There are 14 brands available, and each brand has 7 varieties. Which of these 98 options will be the right one to help you live your best life? In almost all cases, the difference will be negligible, but you're still going to spend 20 minutes trying to choose the best one. I just buy the one that makes me immortal. Not the weirdest, but the competitiveness of youth sports keeps on getting crazier and crazier. My hometown has a travel team for 7 to 8-year-olds now. Let me tell you about Texas. It's wild here. Thousands of people die in car accidents every year because some people can't put their phone down. Internet porn being free still blows my mind. And it's reached the point of normalcy, where people who pay for porn are viewed as psychopaths. I wouldn't say psychopaths. Some porn is either pretty niche to get good high-quality stuff, or custom stuff. Or maybe you want to support a specific artist star. That people almost flex how bad they have it. Like people saying, "I had the worst childhood," or "I only slept 2 hours last night," and glamorizing things like that. Definitely, people just want attention and they try to act humble by boasting negatively. Massive debt is normal. It's not normal, except in a society where the upper classes are gradually enslaving the lower ones. It's really crazy how many people just don't get what high interest means for their finances. American health insurance. I'm American, but have lived in Canada for a long time. You guys have no idea how much better it is to have Canada's system, monsieur. If you did, it would make you scream, monsieur. American health insurance is a lead blanket smothering the entire country. It keeps untold millions at jobs they despise. A big reason why businesses don't want to get rid of it. It keeps untold thousands from starting their own businesses. It endangers untold millions, not just adults, but kids too, who exist in a reality where you only go to the doctor once you're super sick. And then it's to the herb because you let it go so long. You know the parable about slowly boiling frogs? Y'all are boiled. 100%. It's done. It happened in the past. You live subjected to a system that no Canadian or European politician would dare suggest for their own country. You just don't realize how bad it is compared to what other countries have. I've had government healthcare, former active duty, and it sucked. I'm not saying that the governments of other countries don't do it right. Just that America's government either can or won't need an MRI because they think you have a tumor in your head. The next available appointment is in 31 days and is at 2:30 a.m. Monsieur need a knee surgery for a torn meniscus. 4.5 years later, give up and go hire a private doctor that fixes it the next week. Chest hurts because you have pneumonia? Don't list your primary complaint as chest pains unless you want someone to come argue with you about how you're not having chest pains, because that always means heart attack and you're not having a heart attack. Get kicked out of the doctor's office when you point out that a hurt foot could be described as foot pains, so why doesn't a hurt chest qualify as chest pains? Have a motorcycle accident in which your motorcycle ran over your chest and then you slammed into a tree. Be prepared to wait 9 hours for a chest x-ray. If after 9 hours of waiting you decide you'll go to a different hospital for treatment, stand by, because they send the police to arrest you. Edit. Typos corrected. Yeah, that sounds miserable, but just wanna point out, Canada's system isn't government healthcare like the VA. The government is just the payer. They aren't the ones actually providing the healthcare. It's like if instead of the VA, you had a card that let you go to any doctor or hospital in the country, and the government paid for it every time. It sucks, at least in part, because they want it to suck. They want you to compare government healthcare to the for-profit system and choose the one that makes them money. That's not at all what our system is like. Yes, you may wait for some things, but if it's urgent, it happens now. Like, the same day. My grandma had been waiting for hip replacement for a year. Bad. But it wasn't urgent. She had a fall and broke her hip. They fixed it the next day. In the US, over 300 million people of all sorts of backgrounds and needs and countless cultures, spread out over 3 million square miles of hundreds of different environments and climates. From tropic to Arctic, rainforests both jungle and temperate, mountains to vast plain, every industry and resource at our grasping for our use, all networked with every way imaginable, from electronic network to miles upon miles of highway and rail. And you fucking get two choices of two different organizations who boil every single issue and need for the entirety of all of this down to two platforms for every level of government. And somehow, I'm a wacko for questioning this stupid shit. The whole two major party system and left to right spectrum is rather absurd and limiting, that's for sure. We literally have a world of information in our hands. Not even 20 years ago was this possible. We have a supercomputer in our hands. A machine more powerful than the entire computer room that NASA used to go to the moon. It communicates over a wireless network that connects all other computers together, allowing us to access all of the world's information on a Why, monsieur? We use it to watch each other's home videos. Having kids. You don't have to have them, monsieur. We're overpopulated enough as it is. A lot of people don't want children. They want accessories and Instagram fodder. It's honestly disgusting. People who genuinely want to be parents, that's perfectly fine. People who crap out kids every other year because they're bored or want attention can go to hell. This X1000. We as a species should stop incentivizing that people keep fucking like rabbits and giving birth to more dumbasses like themselves. Teen Mom should be cancelled and replaced with Stupid Bitch. I only watched part of a season, but Teen Mom really doesn't glamorize teenage pregnancy. The girls were all having incredibly rough times. Most of the boys were deadbeats or just too immature to be dads. It was much more, holy shit, I ruined my life, than anything else. I find a lot of people say it when I have kids because they see it as an inevitability. Like they have no choice in the matter. plus all the reasons other people give you for why you should have a kid. Kids aren't retirement plans. They aren't guaranteed to be your caretaker one day. Know how many people in nursing homes banked on their kids caring for them? I just want younger people to know, if you want to raise little humans one day, be sure you're prepared for any outcome. You may end up with a gay child, a disabled child, or a child with mental illness. You have to be ready to accept that going in. You can't just decide you don't want them anymore if they aren't exactly up to your expectations. But you're not obligated to have kids to keep the species alive. Parents often want grandkids because they get to play with a kid and spoil them rotten, but not have to do any actual parenting. I'm an aunt and I'm perfectly fine with that. I get to play with my nieces and nephew and pick out awesome birthday presents. But I also don't have to deal with potty training or tantrums. This first part sounds like when you adopt a dog too. To be honest, I think in regards to another life other than your own, you need to make sacrifices to keep that other life happy and healthy. I prefer my dog over any potential child. I'm okay with being an aunt too, because at the end of the day, only the dog comes home with me. Haha. How students' mental healths are impacted so negatively by school. No one says anything or changes standards when students begin to fail due to pressure or harm themselves from it not being good enough to the country's standard. Yet, we all just accept the fact millions of students suffer emotionally. I don't think the issue is having standards. It is having too many requirements. We don't encourage kids to take what they want and make them take so many damn core classes. That and the price of college. Having phones, pieces of plastic and metal. Most people don't know how they work, and they enable you to see pictures and speak to people anywhere in the world. We need to re-examine what amount of work is truly necessary in a world of advancing automation. We don't need to model our economy on the early industrial revolution anymore. Coronavirus is proving that a lot of our work can be done at home. And the fact that magically anytime there is a hiccup in the economy, the US government can afford to throw trillions of dollars around to bail out companies, proves that there is a lot we could be doing to help everyday people. God didn't mandate the 40-hour work week, or the minimum wage. That's not a commandment nor a law of physics. This is all a math problem that can be solved, and a lot of economists are trying. Be open-minded and don't accept hardships. We can do amazing things if we choose to think about what is possible. And don't just embrace our historical cog in the outdated machine. There's going to be a point in the next century where there's no need for certain labor anymore, and limited demand for other types of labor. We only need so many nurses, doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers. When that happens, we won't know what to do about it because so many people can't think of their value outside of market-based economics. 12 years of schooling, where every day they're told, we need to prepare you for work. And then suddenly there's not work that they can do or that we need them to do. That's a crisis that's going to not look pretty. We work 5 days a week to afford a living, then spend most of the 2 days a week we have off getting over the previous 5 days and getting ready for the next 5 days. Usually just to be able to afford to live and service the debt we take on to afford a nice house. And not everyone can afford to do that. That almost everyone on earth has the opportunity to see and experience things that people 100 years ago couldn't even imagine, and the ones most easily able to access the experiences simply don't. Showcasing your whole relationships online. No worries about privacy, security, stalkers, identity robbers, people using your photos for something else. And on top, how fake it can be in comparison to the reality of those relationships. That we have people in jail and paying fines for weed charges in some states, and in others, dispensaries are not only legal but literally an essential business at Missouri, among many other laws too lengthy to discuss here. There's too much structure, too little Frito, monsieur. Vague. I know. One of the things I don't understand and hate me for it? Let's take two people, a plumber and a doctor. I don't believe it's right that a doctor could have a potentially more successful life than a plumber, because of what he gets paid. The plumber, no matter how hard he tried, could have never become a doctor, because he wasn't born for that. By what right does that make him less than the man who's a doctor, though? Why should he earn less and not have the right to the same salary a doctor has? And potentially the same things he has. Money is the worst thing ever. Ever. Maybe I took two bad examples, but you get my point. Yes, a doctor saves lives, but what can the plumber do about the fact he's not as intelligent? A plumber is important, no denying it, but anyone can train to be a plumber. That makes the supply of plumbing services much higher than that of doctors. Hell, even you can try plumbing yourself. If it doesn't work, you call a professional plumber. If that plumber doesn't do a good job, you call another one. Nobody has to die just because your toilet got clogged. Meanwhile, the training to become a doctor is long and extremely difficult, and most of the times in their line of work, it can be a matter of life and death situation. You can't perform brain surgery on yourself. You need a doctor to do that. A great one for higher chance of surviving. My point is, the amount of salary isn't determined by the importance of the job itself. It's determined by the complexity and urgency of that job. Why should doctors who spent years of med school and had to witness people die every day have the same pay grade as a job that even you can do at home? Life isn't fair. The plumber gets paid because his job is not nearly as important, and plumbers are a lot easier to replace than doctors. His job isn't as important. You go ahead and try living in a house without plumbing. Try living in a country without doctors. Does this country not have borders? Doctors without borders. I solved your riddle, wizard. Asterisk. Now give me my prize. Asterisk. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.